Howdy all. In today's video, I'm here to talk about my car, which has been fitted with some adaptive hand controls so that I can drive it safely as someone living with a disability. Now, I originally went outside today to film this introduction, and I wanted to be sat next to the car. Seems like it was a good idea, but the place that I picked happened to be at a lookout where a lot of motorbike riders blast around, and it was pretty noisy, and I'm pretty sure you could have heard it, and it would have annoyed me a lot if that was in the background. So just a very quick recap. I am someone who was born with a congenital disability. I was pretty well able-bodied though for most of my adult life, but about 10 years ago I started to use mobility aids, which I've talked about in previous videos. Crutches, canes, foot braces, stuff like that. And about 5 years ago, my disability worsened to the point where I started to lose a fair bit of sensation and weakness, and was reliant on using two forearm crutches for all of my mobility to get around. And with that came a loss of sensation in my lower limbs, and that meant that my proprioception, which is your ability to know where your limbs are in space, was not very good, which isn't ideal for driving. Now at the time, I was dependent on those crutches to get around, and I had very little endurance when it came to walking. Couple that with the fact that my ability to drive was pretty hindered. One thing that I did do to try and make the best of the situation was to put a little light in the footwell of my car, and that illuminated that space where my feet were, and then I could sort of see out of the corner of my eyes when I was driving where roughly my foot was. It was an automatic, so I was just using one foot to drive, and that sort of helped me get around somewhat, but I did very much dial back how much driving I was doing. It was a pretty grim time for me. I was pretty depressed, I think. I don't think I realized that at the time, but basically the things that I like to do sort of shrunk down a lot because my ability to get out and do them was diminished. So yeah, a lot of social stuff sort of fell by the wayside. Wasn't engaging with my hobbies as much, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it was a pretty difficult time, but I think that's just sort of something that happens when you have a disability like mine that progresses. Things that you sort of normally like to engage with and do regularly, they just sort of like, you kind of forget about them almost, just as you sort of focus on the things that you can do. I didn't make a conscious decision to stop doing the things that I enjoy, and it's only sort of like in recent months, thanks to all of the adaptive equipment that I now have, that I've been able to really re-engage with all of my hobbies and the things that I love, as well as help from friends and those sorts of things has been a big help for me as well. So I started the process with my insurance company, the National Disability Insurance Agency here in Australia, to seek funding for the hand controls. At the same time, I was also seeking funding for a wheelchair as well. So it took sort of 6 months for all that to come together. I was also waiting for a car because the NDIA would not pay for hand controls to go in an older car, and my car was pretty dated. So I had to buy a new car. That was mainly owing to, it was during COVID, and the used car market here was pretty rough. So it worked out to be better to get a new car. So I went and did that, got a 2022 Toyota Yaris Cross. It's a hybrid. I just wanted something that was cheap to run, that would fit a wheelchair in the back, and thankfully it meets those requirements. So pretty much once the car arrived, it went off to the workshop to get the hand controls fitted immediately, so that when I picked up the car, it was ready to go. While I was waiting for the delivery of the car, I was getting some lessons to learn how to drive a car with hand controls, which I'll speak a bit more about. But basically, in this video, I just wanted to take you out and about, show you how the hand controls work, and give you a bit of a demo while I'm driving around with them. All right, so here we are in the car. You can see the hand control here. So this is the brake, pushing forward like that. I'm not sure if you can see, but there's basically like a big metal bar that goes from the hand control down to the brake pedal where it connects, and so you're actually physically pushing the brake pedal when you push like that, and that's why push is brake and pull is go. So to accelerate, you pull it back like that, and it's wired into the car's electric throttle. So There's very little resistance needed to pull this back, which is nice. When I was having my lessons to learn how to drive a car with hand controls, the car had a mechanical throttle, so it was actually actuating the accelerator pedal, and it required a lot more work to accelerate. So I'm really grateful that, yeah, this car can be wired in like that to make it a lot easier. I'm not sure if you can see from that vantage, but there's indicator buttons on the left and right hand side here, so that allows me to indicate without taking my hand off. You can see here on the dash there's an aftermarket switch that's been added, so that disengages the hand control or the throttle side of things anyway, so that way, yeah, someone who can use their legs can still drive the car okay. You just flick that off, the hand control stops working, and the accelerator pedal starts working again, so that's pretty good. The only thing though is that for it to be engineered so that it's nice and safe and everything, the seat is no longer movable. So obviously for me, that's not a problem because, you know, I don't use my feet. But you can see there that the hand control itself is mounted to all of that metalwork in there that's been put in there, which yeah, serves as a mounting point, but does also mean that the seat can't be moved anymore. Fine for me, but yeah, bit of an issue if anyone wants to drive this car and yeah, their legs aren't long enough, I guess. Basically, I need to put my foot on the brake to change the gears into drive, and then we can push off. So the way I do that is I just juggle my hand like that, put my, almost said foot on the brake, put my hand on the brake, and we go into drive, and then I juggle it back like this. And this hand control, see this little button here, if I push that forward and hit that, it locks on the brake. So that means that I can have my foot on the brake, so to speak, without doing anything, which is handy at traffic lights and stuff like that. And then if I want to toggle that off, it's just a quick push forward, you'll hear that click, and then the brake is yeah, in my hand again. So yeah, let's go for a quick drive and you can see how it all works. So I'm going to switch up the angles a little bit because I've recorded from a couple of different angles here just so that you can see what's going on. So if the sound doesn't quite match what you see on the screen, that's why. But yeah, hopefully you can see a pretty good angle there of my hand here on the hand control. I'm pushing to brake and slow down. I'm just going for a bit of a drive through the foothills here in Adelaide, which is not too far from my house. On the steering wheel, there is a spinner knob, which means that I can steer one-handed. It's mostly, I guess, more usable when you're going at slower speeds, like in car parks and stuff like that. As you can appreciate, if my left hand is busy on the throttle and the brake, then being able to steer is problematic, one-handed, especially at slow speeds. When I'm moving at speeds like this, I can comfortably put my hand on the steering wheel like I normally would and just drive like this, but I guess I'm out of the habit of that now and I just use the spinner knob for everything. For some reason, the spinner knob is detachable. Not entirely sure why. Here's the knob that comes off. No idea why. Anyway, maybe just for maintenance or something. Maybe you can get different knobs. Maybe I can get one with, like, you know, that one from the 80s that's like got a spider inside of it and it's clear and you can see the spider in it. On the topic of spiders, during the filming of this video, I did have an extra passenger on board. This is Sheelab. I think I've since dealt with them and got them out, I hope. So coupled with the hand controls are some features built into the car that are really good for accessibility as well. So one of the things, and you might see this in a moment when I start driving up through the hills here, is that a lot of the time I don't need to have my hand on the hand controls because the car's got a really good, like, radar assisted cruise control. So you set the speed that you want. If there's a car in front, it will slow down automatically, which means that, you know, for a lot of freeway driving and stuff like that, you know, you can have a bit of a break. You don't need to be on the hand control, constantly changing your speed and all that sort of stuff. So that works really well. One of the other features that I use a lot is the brake hold. So that means that when I pull up to lights, the car will put itself into like brake mode automatically. And again, I can just take my hand off the control, as you can see here, and the car's doing the braking for me. And then I just pull back and away we go. So yeah, those two features I use like a lot, probably a lot more than other people would, because it means that, you know, I can rest my hand a little bit like that when there's no other cars around. It's pretty safe to do so. The car's going to automatically brake if anything like rushed out in front of me, but you know, like it's super quick to just get my hand on the brake there and push that in if I need to. So I mentioned before that when I was waiting for my car to arrive and to get the hand controls fitted, I was getting lessons with an occupational therapist in a car that already had hand controls fitted. I ended up getting about 4 hours worth of lessons, and to start with, yeah, it feels so weird getting in a car, using your hands. Your feet and legs are just sort of here doing nothing. And pushing to brake, pulling to go, yeah, feels very strange. But after 4 hours of lessons, I felt pretty competent. You know, I still had to think a lot about driving with hand controls, whereas now, after many more hours of experience, I don't have to think about it anymore. I'm at that position that I was, you know, before when I was driving with my feet and before my disability came on, where I can just drive without thinking about it, which is pretty great. And in the background during that process, something else that changed was that my driver's license had some conditions attached to it, so that now I'm only allowed to drive a car with hand controls. And that was a bit of processing for me to do. I didn't really like having that taken away from me, but I also knew that like it had to, you know, like I could no longer safely drive a normal car, and yeah, so there wasn't really much for it. But I think just that formal documented acknowledgement of my disability and taking away my ability to drive a normal car, yeah, it was definitely a bit of work to do. And I remember thinking about it and thinking that was a bit sad. But, you know, at the end of the day now I can drive this car and any other car with hand controls safely and feel confident about it. And that's something that I had lost. So absolutely worth it. When I got the car back and, you know, I had the hand controls and I'd had the lessons and everything and felt safe driving it, just an incredible feeling to get that agency back, to be able to drive where and when I wanted to. You know, that had been taken away from me with my worsening condition, and it sort of happened gradually to the point where like I didn't really realize what had happened. I just sort of stopped going out as much. But once I got it back, just life-changing. Like I got a whole part of my life back that had gone away, basically. You know, I was really dependent on other people for lifts, public transport, all that sort of stuff. So getting the power back to be able to go anywhere, whenever I want to, just incredibly liberating. And I'm super grateful that, yeah, I live in a country that has a disability insurance scheme that, you know, funded these hand controls for me. You know, they're sort of $10,000 to $15,000, so they're not super cheap, like a lot of adaptive equipment, unfortunately. And they are mine now, so if I get like a new car, that's good. I can pay to have them transferred over to a new car, which is really nice. And if you're someone who, you know, has a disability or, you know, you can't drive anymore using your feet, I would absolutely recommend, you know, if you've got the resources to do so or the assistance to do so, look into getting hand controls. It's a little bit of work, you know, takes a bit of training and practice and all that sort of stuff, but once you get used to it and you adapt, it's incredible. That autonomy and being able to go wherever you want to, whenever you want to, is just priceless. And when I combine having a car with hand controls with my wheelchair, just amazing. Like I can go so many places now. Car with wheels and a wheelchair with wheels. It's almost as if I should have called this channel something to do with wheels.
What do they call you? Wheels?
Anyway, yeah, that combination, just amazing. You know, there's a lot of places that I can go now that I couldn't before, which I'm super grateful for. So I'm just pulling into home now. And new cars as well. got some pretty cool stuff that makes them pretty accessible. Like I'm reversing into my driveway now. It's a bit easier for me to get my wheelchair out that way, and I'm using the reverse camera in front of me to do that, which for someone who has all of their lumbar spine fused, it's a bit hard for me to twist around and look behind me. Obviously I've got my mirror and everything as well, but yeah, having the camera is really, really nice. Sorry about the beeping. Well, I'm home now. I hope that was informative. Thanks for coming for the drive. Yeah, next time we'll have a chat about the wheelchair. But thanks for watching.